Hi, welcome to the channel. Come on in, like and subscribe. Building worlds, one AI generation at a time.
So you want to own a data center. No customers walking through a door. No product going bad on a shelf. Just racks of steel, humming quietly, printing money every second a server stays powered on. It looks like the cleanest business on earth. Recurring revenue. Long contracts. A tenant base that never wants to leave because moving a server farm is a logistical nightmare nobody signs up for twice. Here's the paradox. You can fill every single rack in the building. Hit 100% occupancy. Sign every lease at premium rates. And still watch the balance sheet bleed out because the thing you're actually selling was never square footage. It was electricity. And electricity is the one input in this industry you don't fully control, can't easily expand, and can be sold out of before the building is even half full. Every headline tells you the same story. Trillions of dollars pouring into artificial intelligence infrastructure. Hyperscalers signing power contracts the size of small nations. Private equity firms lining up to buy anything with a diesel generator and a fiber connection. It reads like the safest bet of the decade, physical infrastructure nobody can build fast enough, feeding a technology nobody can stop demanding. But infrastructure businesses have always hidden their real constraint behind the one that's easy to sell. Railroad sold tickets but lived and died by track capacity. Airline sold seats but lived and died by gate slots. Data centers sell rack space, cooling, uptime guarantees stamped with impressive percentages. What actually caps the business, what actually breaks the model, sits one layer beneath the sales pitch entirely. Stick around. Because the way this industry quietly runs out of a resource nobody sees coming is the whole story. Tier 1 starts small. A converted warehouse or a leased suite inside someone else's shell, maybe 200 to 500 kilowatts of capacity, built out for $400,000 to $2 million. This is colocation at the edge, renting cabinet space to local businesses, regional ISPs, a few small e-commerce operations that need their servers close to home. Margins are thin here because the power contract was negotiated with zero leverage and the cooling system is inherited, not designed. Tier 2 moves into purpose-built territory. $5 to $20 million buys a facility in the 2 to 5 megawatt range, sited near a dedicated substation, built to Tier 3 redundancy standards with dual power feeds and backup generation. This is where regional cloud providers, healthcare systems, and mid-size enterprises sign multi-year contracts. The operator now controls the electrical infrastructure instead of renting someone else's. Tier 3 is the hyperscale game. $50 million minimum, often climbing past $500 million for a single campus. These are the buildings chasing AI training clusters, 50, 100, 200 megawatts of contracted power, sometimes with a private substation built specifically to feed one tenant. Land acquisition alone can eat 8 figures before a single wall goes up, because these sites need to sit near existing high-voltage transmission lines, and there simply aren't that many parcels left that qualify. At this level you're not competing with other data center owners. You're competing with steel mills and aluminum smelters for the same regional power grid capacity, and losing that fight can kill a project before it breaks ground. Some operators now negotiate directly with utilities for years before signing a single tenant, because the power interconnection queue, not the construction schedule, has become the real bottleneck to opening day. Here's the mechanic nobody explains on the sales page. You are not renting space. You are renting delivered, cooled electricity, and space is just the container it comes in. Every operator lives and dies by 2 numbers. PUE, power usage effectiveness, measures how much electricity gets burned on cooling and overhead for every unit that actually reaches a server. A PUE of 1.5 means for every watt doing useful compute, you're paying for half a watt just keeping the building cold. The second number is rack density, how many kilowatts you can safely deliver and cool per cabinet. Legacy buildings were designed for 5 to 8 kilowatts a rack. Modern AI hardware wants 30, 40, sometimes over 100 kilowatts crammed into the same footprint. That gap is the counterintuitive fact that breaks most spreadsheets. A building can be structurally empty, half its cabinets unsold, while being electrically maxed out, because the power delivery infrastructure hit its ceiling long before the floor space did. Owners call this stranded capacity. You have unsellable square footage sitting next to unsellable megawatts, and neither number helps the other. The asset that looked infinite on the pitch deck turns out to have a hard ceiling that isn't square feet. It's amps. Walk into one of these facilities and you'll notice something deliberate. No windows. No signage indicating what's inside. A single unmarked door, a loading dock with no company logo, sometimes a building disguised to look like a nondescript office park or a warehouse for a completely unrelated industry. That's not paranoia. That's the product. The entire physical design exists to sell trust and hide liability at the same time. Biometric access, man-trap entry vestibules, redundant chiller plants, diesel generators sized for 72 hours of autonomous runtime, every layer photographs well for a tenant walkthrough and justifies a premium lease rate. Redundancy itself becomes marketing. N+1 power feeds. Dual utility substations. Concrete bunkers rated for hurricane winds. A prospective tenant walks the floor, sees millions of dollars of physical overbuild, and reads it as safety. What they don't see is underneath that showroom, a decade-long liability most tenants never think about. The power purchase agreement. Operators lock in electricity contracts years in advance, betting on future demand and future grid capacity that may or may not materialize on schedule. Some regions now have utilities telling data center developers their new substation won't be energized for 4 to 7 years, forcing operators to sign power contracts for capacity that doesn't physically exist yet. The gleaming cooling infrastructure is the visible asset. The multi-year energy contract sitting behind it is the invisible one, and it doesn't show up on a facility tour. Here's what the top-line lease revenue never tells you. A data center's real risk isn't tenant churn. It's capital structure colliding with a power grid that moves on utility timelines while debt payments move on quarterly ones. Cyxtera built a sprawling colocation empire through a private equity take-private deal, then went public through a SPAC merger in 2021 carrying well over $1 billion in debt from that buyout. The facilities stayed occupied. Tenants kept paying. Occupancy rates looked healthy on every investor call. But interest payments on that leveraged structure outran the cash the business could generate, and rising rates only widened the gap between what the debt cost and what the racks could earn. By 2023, Cyxtera filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a company with real customers and real revenue, killed by the debt stacked on top of it before a single server went dark. Then there's the mismatch that took down Exodus Communications 2 decades earlier. During the dot-com boom, Exodus built dozens of massive data centers at breakneck speed, betting that internet traffic and dot-com clients would keep multiplying forever. They signed long-term leases on buildings sized for a market that didn't exist yet. When the dot-com crash hit in 2000 and 2001, the client base evaporated almost overnight, leaving Exodus holding enormous fixed operating costs against collapsing demand. The company filed for bankruptcy in September 2001, one of the largest failures of its era, not because the buildings were badly built, but because they were built for a market that vanished before the concrete cured. Strip away the server racks and the biometric doors and the equation is simple. Revenue equals contracted power sold at a markup, minus the cost of that power, minus debt service on infrastructure that took years to permit and build. Run it well and you're netting somewhere around 20 to 30% margin, tight enough that a bad power contract or an over-leveraged balance sheet turns a full building into a bankruptcy filing. Equinix built the model that everyone else is still copying, not by owning the most square footage, but by owning the interconnection points where networks physically meet, turning its facilities into toll booths for the entire internet's traffic rather than just landlords for hardware. That's the version of this business that wins. Everyone else is selling cooled electricity dressed up as real estate, praying the power contract and the debt schedule stay in the same decade. The building doesn't go bankrupt.
Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Click over here for the next video. See you all next time.